Welcome to the Personal Pension Radio Podcast, where it's all about helping you complete your financial journey to retirement. Discover time-tested strategies and get unconventional insights into wealth building and retirement that actually work. Break away from the herd and go for the retirement you dream of. And now, here's your host, the income engineer, Kraig.
All right, back on Personal Pension Radio. Yes, there was a gap in the show as far as a week between shows. I was out traveling last week, so I did not stop and record a podcast. I took a podcast vacation. I figured I'm entitled. And if you haven't already guessed it, I did talk a lot and scream a lot and have a lot of fun. So my voice is still a little broken up over the last few weeks. I'm just talking too much. I've been presenting and doing a lot of chit chat. So as you heard, I am the income engineer. My mission is to deliver that retirement planning conversation that is missing on Wall Street. Wall Street doesn't talk about both sides of the retirement journey. That accumulation phase that Wall Street is really good at least the conversation part of it, which is save, and invest and grow your money for retirement, is only one half of the journey. The second half is the distribution phase. That's the part of the conversation that needs to be connected in with your accumulation planning. You've got to connect the dots if you're ever going to hope for a maximum retirement income to look forward to. That's my specialty. I am the income engineer. Most advisors today, as I've mentioned before, have been educated by that same Wall Street machine that taught me how to teach the general public about retirement planning. And they generally focus on accumulation because that's where Wall Street makes their money. They make their money on the investment side, the grow, save, keep your money in Wall Street. That's where the problem starts, in my opinion. Wall Street has no incentive to teach me how to teach you to take your money out of their system. It's incomplete. They don't talk about distribution planning nearly enough. And when they do, it's generally with things like the 4% rule, the Monte Carlo simulation, these things that if you've never had the conversation about the 4% rule or Monte Carlo simulation, it's a really depressing conversation. It's, wait a minute, you said I saved up $1 million and you're telling me that I should only take out 4% or $40,000 to start my retirement? That is depressing. Folks, maximum retirement income does not happen with a product. It doesn't happen with investment stocks. It doesn't happen with life insurance or annuities or real estate. It happens with all of these things coordinated and organized together for a maximum lifestyle income in retirement. And that's what I'm doing. I'm fighting that conventional wisdom about retirement planning and that bad advice or incomplete advice from the financial advisory community. You've got to connect the dots. Folks, I love this conversation. I love it so much, I did trademark the name The Income Engineer because I am passionate about it. So if you would like to know more, if you would like to double check your own retirement trajectory to find out what you're on track for today and what you might be able to do if you tweak it and change it and adjust it, send me an email, Kraig, Kraig, at kraigstrom.com. Now, quick disclosure. I am not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. I am a certified financial planning professional that's trying to sound still very qualified as his voice is struggling through the episode. But as qualified as I may be and as I may sound, please don't act on advice that you hear from any financial advisor or especially financial planners, entertainers, or radio podcast personalities like me. Don't act on those things that you hear on shows like this. Meet with a qualified financial planner. Meet with someone who actually will take the time to get to know you, to establish that relationship, to gather that information and the details about you and analyze it before they make recommendations. Please do that. Meet with a qualified financial planner. I would love that financial planner to be me. Absolutely. Kraig at kraigstrom.com. Now, a quick shout out. Shout out to my nephew, Matt, in Syracuse, New York. Matt in Syracuse, New York. Let me tell you a story. A few months ago, well, it's now been a lot longer than that. So over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, my wife, who is a genealogist, she loves to study family history. She had me do one of those DNA tests, where you spit in a cup and send in your saliva so that you can have your DNA mapped so you can see who you're connected with and what your family history is. I am a large percentage Irish and Eastern European and yada, yada, yada. But here's the big deal. A few months ago, someone who was looking for connections in their family tree had also put out DNA on Ancestry.com, and they got a hit. They got a hit connected to me. And so what happened was my nephew, whom I've never met, found me on Ancestry.com by way of a DNA match that said, without a doubt, his dad was my brother, and he looked me up. Now, the story behind that is that my brother had been put up for adoption way, way, way back when my mom was far too young to have a baby. Well, she did what at the time was the right thing, and she put that baby up for adoption. Well, that baby went off to adoption to a nice family, and lo and behold, we never met until Ancestry.com connected my DNA with my nephew's DNA and said, hey, I think we got a match. So Matt reached out to me through Ancestry, and we double-checked some details, and sure enough, I've got a nephew. How cool is that? I have another nephew, actually. So I have a nephew here in California. Now I have a nephew, Matt, in Syracuse, New York. That is amazing. The big, wide world of ours has gotten very small. So Matt and I actually hung out for a day in New York while I was in New York. And that goes right to the idea that, folks, if you're not out there embracing technology, if you're not out there just embracing that which has come along into the world today, you really are missing out. That's amazing that this young man, well, younger than me, he actually got out on Ancestry, was interested in his family history, and the system worked. It pinged the connection. That's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Well, I'll talk about my trip to New York here in just a little bit. So hello to Matt. That was awesome. Look forward to seeing you again. He's going to make a visit out to California here someday soon. Fantastic. Now, deal of the week update. Okay, so a deal of the week update. I want to report back from my Tampa and Miami and New York bargain travel trip that I took basically a couple weeks ago now, that I had some folks who raised their eyebrows when I say Airbnb, right? That I'm going to go stay in an Airbnb at somebody's house or at someone's apartment in New York. And they raise an eyebrow like, oh, I don't know about that. Well, wait a minute. Just really quick, let me think about this. So comedian Jim Gaffigan does a bit about staying in hotels. And that's where most people stay when they go to various destinations. They stay in a hotel. So if you go to Manhattan, you stay in a hotel, and it's going to be $250 a night or more. And if you pay less than that, it probably will be kind of a scuzzy place. But if you're going to stay in a nice place, it's probably $250, $300 a night. And let's think about that for a second. As Jim Gaffigan says, you know what? You can't give away a mattress. People leave mattresses on the side of the road, but will pay money to rent a bed that has been used by 1,000 people. That's what a hotel bed is, right? It is literally a bed that people have rented 1,000 times. And as he said, the 10 commandments were written about things that happen in that bed, right? So when you think about it, staying at an Airbnb, right? You're staying at an Airbnb, you're renting a bed, but that bed has been used a lot less than your average hotel bed. Anyway, a report on my trip. Tampa was the only place that I paid for a hotel, and it was mediocre at best. It was okay. It wasn't nearly as good as either of the next two places I stayed, which were Airbnbs. So my place in Miami was awesome. I got in late and I made it to my condo right on the Miami Beach Strip, right there on Miami Beach. And if you were listening to the last episode, I give the details, but I saved a bunch of money. So I get to my condo on the top floor, and I was hungry as can be because I was late. And bingo, they had a Subway franchise downstairs. A Subway downstairs right there as I walk into my condo hotel. Right there, right? And close to the hotel and a beautiful walk was the Miami Beach Boardwalk. Right there, Miami Beach Boardwalk. I could get up as the sun comes up and just stand there and enjoy the beach. It was really nice, right? So outstanding Airbnb experience there in Miami. Now, my next stop was New York City, right? New York City. I did not want to do any typical touristy things in New York City. New York City was never big on my list of places to go, and I was going to be there as an opportunity on business to meet with the marketing director of a law firm. That's great. So I wanted to experience the city more like a local, more like a resident who stayed. So I stayed in the Sunnyside neighborhood in Queens. So my Airbnb was a room in a 3-bedroom walk-up apartment in Queens. It was the perfect size. It was a great location. It was an easy walk to the train and the bus and to the local coffee shop for an authentic New York City bagel, right? That was one of the things. You got to go get your New York City bagel. Frankly, it tasted like a bagel. I guess I'm not a bagel connoisseur, so I guess it was just really nice that I was in New York City at a nice little coffee shop getting a bagel. I could hear the subway train going over ahead, right? Because the trains will ride above and then go down below, and it's really an amazing system. So when I arrived, I got a Metro card and I jumped on the subway. Wow, that is amazing. The subway was, I know people say it's kind of a touristy thing, but the reality is that's the way most people get around, right? What an amazingly efficient way to get around. It's really sad to me that we'll never see anything like that in California because we're just too spread out. We are too spread out and we live in the land of earthquakes. It's just not going to happen. But I grabbed that Metro card and I was on my way. My favorite stop was Central Park and the Staten Island Ferry. We took the Staten Island Ferry ride, kind of commuted to work, if you will, got a great view of the Statue of Liberty and the harbor and this New York City skyline. It was outstanding. My nephew and I, we even stopped at the ferry terminal, had a slice of pizza with two great ladies who were commuting home from work. That's how we knew the pizza was local approved. It was excellent, right? So, and thanks to the Google machine, I was able to find good food at reasonable prices. There's a bunch of food and food options in New York City for unreasonable prices, at least unreasonable according to me, right? You can go spend a ton of money in New York City. So I walked so much. In 2.5 days, my running program or my walking app on my phone said I basically walked 30 miles in 2.5 days. I did walk way too much, but I have to tell you that my eBay Hoka 1-1 running shoes were great. I bought them on eBay, paid less than half of what they retail for, and they are in great condition, and that was an outstanding thing to have. So my Hoka 1-1 running shoes to walk miles and miles and miles. My first day in New York City, 27,600 steps. Whoa. Love that Central Park, though. Central Park was awesome. Now, I share all that because I do have a quest for lifestyle deflation. Lifestyle deflation. To be able to enjoy life without spending a ton of money on it is entirely possible. And I love to enjoy things. I just love to find a deal or a bargain to do it. And my visit to New York, I think, was the ideal way for me personally. No, I'm not a Broadway guy. No, I'm not a shopping guy. No, I'm not a all over the place, pay money to go to the top of the NBC Tonight Show tower. No, none of that. I just really enjoyed being there. I experienced it. Check mark on my list of things to do. And boom, I'm home. Bottom line, though, is I love my Airbnb experience. That's the only way to stay. For me personally, if Airbnb is available, it is just so much better value. And to be able to experience New York truly from a local perspective, commuting from Manhattan back to Queens really wasn't a long trip unless you take the wrong train like I did once. But it wasn't a long trip, and it was really the way to see New York, to really experience it. So let me jump into the first segment, Watch Your Step. In the last episode, I actually did cover some things about like, hey, why is your financial advisor, right, not telling you about certain things? Why is your financial advisor not filling in some very important details about diversification and risk analysis and things like that? Well, remember, Wall Street teaches financial advisors the message that is best for Wall Street. Folks, if you want to double check that episode, definitely go back and listen to the details. But the important takeaway from that was get a portfolio risk analysis. Send me an email, Kraig@kraigstrom.com. I'll send you back a link that you can actually run your own portfolio risk analysis. Make sure your numbers match up. Make sure they match up, right? Now, this week, I love this quote. I actually heard this, and I hate this. I cannot remember exactly where I heard it. That's the part that I'm trying to remember. So I just went and found the author of the quote, the person who actually said it. So back in 2005, the author, David Foster Wallace, addressed the graduating class at Kenyon College with a speech that is now one of his most read pieces. In it, Mr. Wallace argues against unconsciousness. He says it's the default setting. It's the rat race. And it's so appropriate because there I was in New York City just trying not to be on my phone in the subway. I was only on my phone to watch and make sure that I didn't miss my stop. But so many people were in the subway, sitting in the subway car, and just looking at their phone, not paying attention to anyone around them, nothing, right? So David Foster Wallace, his talk was about this idea of this unconsciousness, this default setting of the rat race, this constant gnawing sense of having had and lost some infinite thing. And he begins with this parable. And this is going to be one of my new favorite parables. So Mr. Wallace goes on to say this: there are two young fish swimming along, and they happen to meet an older fish swimming the other direction. The older fish nods at them and says, "Morning, boys. How's the water?" And the two young fish swim on for a bit. And then eventually, one of them looks at the other and goes, "What the hell is water?" I love that. What the hell is water? Folks, stop and try and see the water around you. Try and see and be conscious about the beauty, the opportunity, right? Try and just pay attention to that which you are currently missing, right? That's the key. There is so much opportunity, so much beauty, so much interesting things going on around you. Stop. That old phrase, stop and smell the roses, right? It was just amazing to hear this quote a week after I got back from New York, because that's one of the things that I thought while I was there, right? I'm there. The only place I saw people really actually kind of paying attention was in Central Park. It is an oasis, right, in New York City. But in general, there's still a lot of beauty and a lot of really amazing stuff going on. Pretty much anywhere you can think that you might be, there's some pretty amazing things that if you were just conscious about it, thoughtful about it, you'll actually notice it, right? So stop, pay attention to those things that are around you. Right now, here's a quick suggestion I'm going to make. I'm going to wax a little bit of my amateur philosophy and psychology and teach you something. I hope teach you something and share something with you that someone shared with me a long time ago. And I believe it was just in an article that I had read in a parenting magazine. And it's the idea of taking a quick moment to stop and absorb a beautiful moment. And what I mean by that is to stop in that beautiful moment, that special moment, that moment that you might want to remember. Close your eyes and take a deep breath through your nose. You're listening very carefully. You're breathing in through your nose. You're taking in the smells. You're listening to the sounds around you. Use your eyes then to get a great visual picture, and then take that moment and to do your best to learn how to imprint that memory. And I have to tell you that I've been doing that since my daughter was 2 years old, 3 years old, and I have the opportunity many times throughout a given week, a given month, a given year to stop and close my eyes, and I am able to flash back to beautiful memories. Flashing back to those memories at times when you might really need a little flashback. Just a tip, something that I learned from someone else, and hopefully somebody out there in podcast land will actually take a stab at that. It's pretty cool how vivid your mind can imprint and be able to recall a memory. Now, something else I want to share in the Watch Your Step segment. This idea really came to me as I was thinking about Paul Allen. When I heard the news that Paul Allen, for those of you who don't know, he's the co-founder of Microsoft, co-founded with Bill Gates. And Paul Allen was the 26th richest person on earth. And he died of cancer. And I guess when I heard that, it just really shocked me. It just surprised me. It was the same way when Steve Jobs died, that Paul Allen is infinitely rich when you think about it, right? And yet he didn't have enough money to beat cancer. Nobody does, right? And this thought crossed my mind that Paul Allen, being the co-founder of Microsoft, was essentially Bill Gates' partner. Now, Allen and Gates hit the big time with Microsoft. But most partnerships do not hit those stratospheric heights. And as a protection-first planner, I cannot help but think of the statistics that a business with 2 or more partners must have a plan in the event of death or disability of one of the partners. At age 50, for example, the odds of one partner in 2 dying is 40%. 40%. That's a scary number. When you look at 2 partners, 3 partners, the numbers are even higher. But 2 partners in a successful business, there's a 40% chance that one of those partners could die before the end of the race, right? Whatever the race is. And if it's disability could happen 67% chance. Folks, if you are in a business partnership, if you're in a company partnership with 2 or 3 or 4 founding members, please get your buy-sell agreements, your succession planning agreements reviewed today. Please, you've got to make sure that the business is protected in the event of losing one of the partners. That's what went through my mind after the sadness of thinking another man died of cancer. Because remember, I lost my dad from cancer at 58 years old. So Paul Allen is a billionaire and can't beat cancer, right? So if you have a business partnership and you have not had your buy-sell agreement reviewed, make sure that your life insurance is funding it correctly, that your disability provisions for disability injuries and coverage is right. Please send me an email. Kraig at kraigstrom.com. Kraig with a K at kraigstrom.com. Let me help. We review these plans all the time. My firm is very unique in that we have a law firm and a financial advisory firm under one roof. I can help. Now, I want to just touch on something that came up as in regards to freezing your credit. I've talked about it many times now on the podcast, but I offered the eMoney system to someone recently. That is an online financial planning portal that people can use to track all of their financial accounts and their data all in one place. And this person said, well, I don't know. I'm kind of concerned about data privacy and identity theft. Well, my response is the same. Folks, your data is not secure anywhere, period. We have had so many data breaches from Equifax to Saks Fifth Avenue that your data is most likely already out there. Your social, your children's social security numbers, it's already out there. It's just there's so much of it. Maybe your data hasn't been sold yet, right? So here in California, listen to this. Car theft is no longer a felony. So things like mail theft and breaking and entering have gone sky high. Mail theft and stealing packages off your front door from Amazon, sky high. Why not? Car theft isn't a felony. So mail theft, that's petty theft now, right? So identity theft is absolutely real. Your identity and your info is already out there. So freeze your credit. It's easy. You go to the 3 credit bureaus. You actually just plug in your information and your credit is completely frozen. People cannot get credit or get a job in your name where they run a background check. They can't do it anymore because your credit is frozen. And if you need your credit, thawing the credit is easy. Piece of cake. No big deal. Okay? It's not hard to do. Please freeze your credit. Now, listener questions. Had a couple of great questions. So the last episode, Grant and Aaron asked an awesome question about real estate and debt on real estate. Go back and listen to that. I guess to really summarize, Dave Ramsey says that debt is dumb. I believe the correct answer is bad debt is dumb. Go back and listen to it because the right kind of debt turns a real estate investment into something amazing. Now, this week, I had a questioner from listener Jay here in SoCal, right? Great question on a certain type of life insurance. Now, I have to call it non-guaranteed life insurance that uses Wall Street investments inside to determine the cash value growth or loss. There's certain reasons why I have to call it that, because it's like a third rail of politics. Well, there's some third rails in the things that I can and can't say on my podcast. Yes, because I'm a real financial planner with regulations and compliance. So Jay mentioned that someone he knows had suggested this non-guaranteed type of cash value life insurance, and Jay wanted to get my take on it. My take on non-guaranteed life insurance that is directly tied to Wall Street investments is not good. Not because I'm not a big fan of cash value life insurance, because I am, but I'm not very in favor of these types of non-guaranteed policies because I'm not a big fan of paying high fees. The non-guaranteed life insurance policies that have investment components, they often cost more than 3%. The all-in fees can be 3.25% to 3.5%. And Jay was told this, if I understood it right, that the fees eventually go down, which is not true. In fact, it is the exact opposite. Unlike whole life insurance policies, where the fees are fixed in the beginning, the fees in these types of non-guaranteed investment type policies, they go up forever. The fees go up and up and up and up forever, right? So if you're being pitched life insurance in any way as a great investment option, please stop. Send me an email. Let's talk before you go down that path. Kraig at kraigstrom.com. Now, the second one that I wanted to bring up is a question from someone at my car show. They asked me, what is hard money lending, right? What is hard money lending? Now, they had asked me this because they said when I had responded to the question about why I went to Miami, I had said I went there for a hard money lending conference. And, of course, they said, well, what's hard money lending? Well, hard money lending is also called non-conventional lending. It refers to types of loans, right, that conventional banks, non-conventional versus conventional banks like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, they don't do these types of loans. So they've been given this term hard money as, I don't know who coined the phrase. Maybe it was Bank of America and Wells Fargo to give it sort of a junk bond vibe that, hell, it's hard money loan. Oh, it's a hard money loan. That must not be as good as a Bank of America loan. Well, that's just not true. So non-conventional lending refers to loans that your basic Main Street bank doesn't do. Loans for things like flipping houses, rehabbing a rental property, right? Buying first trust deeds, right? There are hard money loans that are usually done by private investors, and they're facilitated by private investment groups, right? So my own personal situation, for example, I have what would be deemed by a Bank of America as a hard money loan out, where I have loaned money on real estate and a first trust deed position. Now, what that means is that I have the mortgage, the title to the piece of real estate, and the borrower is paying me for the money. The borrower pays me for the opportunity to use that money. Now, mine were just fix and rent, meaning that my money was lent, and in a acquisition of a rental property, the rental property was rehabbed a bit, and then it just gets rented out, and the buyer, the person who bought the rental property, pays me a very nice interest rate on my loan. If the buyer defaulted on the loan, I can foreclose on the house. That's how it works. Non-conventional really just means that it is outside the standard Main Street banking system, right? These are, again, fix and flips, rent and fix, short-term bridge loans, right? If you want to know more, there's a great website that you can actually learn more. It's nonconexchange.com. nonconexchange.com. Non-conventional lending is what it really means. nonconexchange.com, or email me at Kraig@kraigstrom.com. Now that is going to wrap it up for me and my voice, which I shouldn't be talking so much as it is. But quick retirement income reminder. The Wall Street plan is the 4% rule. Trust me, you do not want to retire on the Wall Street retirement income plan. If you don't know what you're on track for, and if you've never had a retirement income conversation, let's talk. Send me an email, Kraig@kraigstrom.com. I look forward to connecting with you. Thank you all for the questions. Please keep them coming. Really do appreciate it. I'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you for listening to the Personal Pension Radio podcast. We took notes for you, so if you missed any part of the show, you can find a full transcript of each episode at personalpensionradio.com. Be sure to download your free retirement income crisis report at personalpensionradio.com. While you're at it, we would appreciate some iTunes love. Please leave us a fantastic rating on iTunes by going to personalpensionradio.com/iTunes. Thanks again for listening. Now for the disclosure. Information presented is for educational purposes only and is not intended for solicitation, sale or purchase of any security or financial product. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and your tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed here. The term personal pension refers to a marketing name designed to educate future retirees and retirees about the economic principles behind creating their own pension-like income. The term personal pension is not intended to be confused with a defined benefit pension plan offered by an employer or by a government entity.